Hello, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Merle Massey, and I'm the coordinator for the Undergraduate Research Initiative at the University of Saskatchewan. And one of the programs that I run is called SURE, the Student Undergraduate Research Experience. And if you're here, you're probably on our YouTube site and watching this recording. So thank you for joining us today. And today we have Roberta Braid, and she's going to be talking to you about information interviewing, which basically the way that I advertised it was how to do an informational interview so that you end up in a job that you think you're going to like. And with that, I'm going to send it right over to Roberta.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm excited for, everyone that's here and everyone who will get to watch this online. So today we're going to be going through a few different things. So first of all, what career information is and why it is an important next step when you're thinking about career and career planning. Really how to research both potential career opportunities as well as making connections. So who you can be reaching out for the career information interviewing. How to use and leverage LinkedIn for career information interviewing, some of the etiquette basics around career information interviewing, and some examples. So some common questions you can be asking when you are reaching out to people. So if we look at career information interviewing, there's kind of lots of layers to it. And this is a scale just for each of you on your own to think about your comfort level with that. So one being, I don't really know what this is. I've never done this. It's really unfamiliar. 10 being, yeah, I know exactly what this is and feel really confident in my abilities to reach out and conduct some career information interviews. And just know there's no right or wrong number. This is just for your own reference and your own self-awareness and comfort level in thinking about where you're currently at. So for example, if you gave yourself a 5, think about what are all the positive things that you know about career information interviewing that makes it a 5 and not lower. And then think about what is maybe some of the missing information that would take this comfort level or this experience that you currently have to maybe one number higher. So what might make it a 6? And just keep that in the back of your mind as we're going through this presentation and this slideshow. And hopefully at the end, maybe some of that missing information will have been filled in. So before we even jump into career information interviewing, I always like to touch on just the basics around career exploration. So really the first step is knowing yourself. So that's self-awareness, because it's really hard to be talking to other people in jobs and industry if you don't already have kind of a good sense of who you are and what you're looking for in a job and a career. So some of the main sections that you can see outlined here, kind of the pieces of this pie, are the internal factors, which are interests, personality, strengths and skills, values, and then what we call the external factors. So things that are kind of outside of yourself that really affect your career exploration and the decisions you make around career. So significant others, so important relationships in your life, your work-life experiences. So just kind of reflecting back on like what you've done, what you've learned about yourself, what you've liked, challenges, maybe what you haven't liked. Those are all important references. Academic experiences, so what you've learned about yourself through your schooling so far, courses that have been really interesting, and again, what you've enjoyed and maybe what you haven't enjoyed as much, and then just some of the different career possibilities that you've been thinking about or considering. And then if we hop back into the internal, really this is where it's digging a little deeper, really thinking about like what is intrinsic to you. So really knowing what those values are, understanding what are the things you're not willing to compromise on in a job or a career versus maybe what are the nice to haves or things that you could be working towards in a career. Your strengths and skills. So again, thinking about some of the technical skills you have, some of the transferable skills, just some of those really innate kind of key gifts that you want to be using in a career or a job, things that are really important to you that you want to be growing in and developing in. Personality, this is one sometimes we don't always think about, but even thinking about things like personality preferences, a lot of times we maybe don't give enough thought to this, but things like having a very clear introversion preference versus a very clear extroversion preference can make a huge difference in your comfort level and satisfaction in different career roles, depending on kind of what the balance is between using those different preferences. And then of course, interests. We know, from talking with so many different students and alumni, really being interested in what you're doing in a career and what you're learning about, having that passion and that fire is really important, because if you're not engaged, it's really hard to have the motivation to be there. So I always recommend to everyone kind of go through these key areas, knowing of course there's other areas. This is just some that we've identified in career services, and making what I call your personal checklist. So, beside each piece of the pie, like writing down things that connect with each of those. So then when you're going into industry and you're talking and having these career information interview sessions, you're seeing how many things really align with what you've connected about yourself in each of these areas, or maybe don't align. Each is equally important and each is giving you really good intel and information. So once you've done that and kind of have a good sense of who you are and a little bit more about what you want for yourself in a career, that's when you can kind of jump into the career information interviewing. So what is career information interviewing? Some of you may have heard of it. It may be kind of a new term for some of you. I know growing up, this was not a term used at all. This was not something that was talked about or that we did. And I see with students today, it's still sometimes a bit of a newer concept. So if you feel a little anxious when you hear it, or it feels a little stressful, just know that that's normal. And it's one of those things, the more you do, kind of the greater your comfort level gets. So when we look at what it is, it's really a meeting with an experienced professional in a career area of your choice or an industry area of your choice. It's a professional conversation where you get to ask questions to learn more about the industry and the different career options available. It's about exploring different ideas, sometimes having those really great kind of aha moments where you can see kind of the work that you've developed in that checklist is really checking off a lot of boxes in what you're hearing. And that can be really exciting. So some of the things that you typically learn from conducting a career information interview are things like industry norms. So what kind of happens within that industry? What are kind of the typical things that go on in certain jobs? You'll learn more about the culture, the environment, just personal insights and connections, again, kind of going back to the different areas that you've identified on your personal checklist, seeing what connects. You'll also learn about different entry points or positions. So this can be really nice, especially if you're looking for more entry positions, finding out the inside scoop, what those are, what some of the hiring or recruiting trends are. That can also be really important. What strengths and what skills that you would need to be kind of entering into that industry. So both technical skills as well as transferable skills. What are some of the challenges? What advice would the experts have for somebody interested in entering this industry or career? So what were maybe some of the surprises they encountered or have been encountering? So it's really about building that professional network. And you can also be uncovering some of those hidden opportunities. So the hidden job market. We know more and more from talking with employers, they really do like to hire people that they know or have some kind of connection with. So this is a really nice way to be introducing yourself and making some of those network connections. It also allows you to gain different perspectives. So we recommend when you're out there, interview a lot of different people. So interview people that are maybe new grads within industry or that career you're interested in, as well as people who have been in it for a long time. You're going to see different perspectives there. So another question we get a lot is how do we find connections? Of course, it's always great if you know somebody within that industry or career. Start with who you know. That's kind of a soft entry and can feel really good. Nice natural way to connect in, but we don't always have that, right? So if we don't have that, then it's about looking for those connections. So it's really being open-minded. It's thinking about, how can I look at different jobs, and then how do I connect with people within those different jobs? So think about, the academic areas that you could be potentially working in, as well as industry. So what's kind of outside of academia? So looking at government, nonprofit, and private sectors as well. Oftentimes when I'm coaching and people are kind of talking about career information interviews or where they might want to work, people they might want to talk to, I encourage them to really think outside the box. So I ask them things like, well, what are your favorite products? Like, what are your favorite companies, organizations? What kind of issues or social impacts do you think about? What do you like to support? What are the types of problems in the world you like to solve? Like, what is interesting to you? So sometimes that can have just kind of an aha moment that can really connect in with somewhere you might want to start researching, and then figuring out some people to connect with within there. An example of that is I was doing a coaching session with someone, and she had really like a non-linear career and was really thinking about like, what do I get into now as an alumni? How can I be using like the education I have, my transferable skills, into kind of entering something different? And when we talked about it a little bit more, she kept going back to the body shop. And this was just a company that she loved. She liked that they were like ethical around how they sourced their products. They cared about the environment. They cared about, things like not testing on animals. They were really, kind of a forefront when it came to kind of the social global issues right now at hand. So when she looked at their values, she really strongly connected in with kind of their mission, their vision statements, things like that, how they were contributing to the world. And she loved their products overall. It was something she'd used for years. So that kind of led her to looking into like what kinds of jobs or careers are at the body shop. And she saw that there was a lot of different kind of corporate things that she could be eligible for. So that led her to starting the career information interviewing and reaching out to people that were working at that corporate level. So that's just one example of that's something she wouldn't typically maybe have thought of, but really just thinking outside the box, like what do you love and what connects with you? And then also thinking about exploring things like industry associations, which we're going to talk a little bit more of later on. Exploring, of course, kind of common job boards, company websites, and just kind of networking opportunities in general. So if we look at academic avenues, there's kind of some common things that you can be looking for, meeting people in industry, looking for jobs that are connected within that. So I'm sure lots of you being in research have probably heard of a lot of these. So the National Research Council of Canada, they're Canada's largest federal research and development organization. If you go on their website, there's lots of good information there. You'll see different job postings, careers. They also have things that are more centered for students, so student employment and different co-op opportunities. There's the USask Research Council, so Canada's second largest research and technology organization with 1,500 clients in 27 countries around the world, so very big organization as well. ResearchGate, that started in 2008 to address the problems in the way science is created and shared. There's 20 million researchers in their community, and they come from diverse sectors in over 190 countries. And really, that's a really nice community to connect, collaborate, share work. And there's also job postings within that. And then the last one I wanted to share with you, the IDRC, so International Development Research Center. That's part of Canada's foreign affairs and development efforts. So they really champion and fund research and innovation within and alongside developing regions to drive global change. So I took those snippets from their website. So that's where that's sourced from, just to give you a little bit of context, and all really good areas to be looking at opportunities, looking at workshops, networking events, and just different people you could be reaching out and connecting to. If we're looking at kind of outside of research and outside of academia, outside of some more of those maybe technical skills that you've learned within research, that's where it's looking at kind of the bigger picture. So expanding the horizon a little bit. These are some of kind of the top sites that I would recommend having a peek at if you're looking for different jobs and wanting to, again, form different connections. So Job Bank it's funded through the government of Canada, and it has a lot of different resources on there. So they're going to have different workshops, different things that you can do for kind of career and self-exploration, different quizzes, lots of different jobs that you can be exploring. And it's not just government jobs, it's nonprofits, it's private sector, it's a little bit of everything on there. Canada's Top Employers for Young People is a really well done website that recognizes it can be hard to kind of step into industry when maybe you don't have a lot of working experience. So the top 100 companies there are recognized as really great companies for hiring students and new grads. And that's where you'll see, lots of different companies, and really think about your transferable skills. So think about what you've learned so far and how they could be applied in maybe something that is a little bit outside maybe of your comfort zone, but still can be a great opportunity for you. The CanadaHelps.org, that really features nonprofits. So that's a nice kind of one-stop shop if you're looking for a lot of nonprofits kind of housed under one roof that you want to be exploring and just seeing what might be of interest to you. So again, there's lots there to choose from, and it's really thinking about your transferable skills and how they can be applied to these different areas. So I know I keep going back to these transferable skills. It's something that's really important today when you're thinking about different careers you can be doing, and when you're going to be having these career information interviews, and when you're going to be asking people, like, what are the main skills needed for this type of job or for this type of profession? So we talk about kind of the top 8, which we got from NACE, the National Association of Colleagues and Employers. So the top 8 to be thinking about are professionalism, communication, teamwork, critical thinking, technology, leadership, equity and inclusion, career and self-development. So that's just kind of the broad spectrum that you can be thinking about. And those are going to be terms probably you're going to hear a lot, and you're going to hear from employers when you're talking with them about their jobs, and you're going to see in job postings a lot as well. So association websites, this is something that sometimes gets a little bit hidden or forgotten about, and they really always have kind of wonderful networking opportunities. So a lot of times they'll have free memberships for students, they'll have different conferences or workshops, maybe different publications, lots of different resources that are free on their websites. So lots of nice ways to kind of get involved with any kind of community you're interested in. So one way, if you're thinking about, how do I find these associations? If you search like world or international, Canadian or national association, and then put, say, your degree in there, that will kind of pop up some different associations or societies that are associated with it. So for an example, if you typed in Canadian Association of Biology, probably lots of different kind of connections would come up there, associations and societies that are connected specifically with biology. A lot of times as well, they also have their own job boards. So that can be a great way to also see what are some of the industry trends and who's doing some hiring. And of course, some different companies and people you could be connecting with. So a tip when you're thinking about these associations is connecting in with Academic Invest. It's a really great website for just exploring kind of careers in general, what you can be doing with your degree. It's a Canadian website. It's really well done. And typically they're going to have the associations that are connected with your degree. So I'm going to stop sharing this for a second, just so I can share what Academic Invest looks like. And then we will come back to this presentation. Okay, so this is Academic Invest. Say we want to explore within science careers. So it'll talk a little bit about what that is. It'll talk about some different career options. Let's say we want to learn more about biochemistry. So it's going to give you career options with a biochemistry degree. It'll talk a little bit what it is, the role of it in industry. This is going to show you some different career options that you could be doing with that. Talks about who employs biochemistry graduates. This is great to have a look at, the transferable skills that you're going to gain. Areas of specialty for studying careers. Some different scholarships you could be applying for, salary levels. And then if we keep going, this is where we're going to find those professional associations I was talking about. So you can see there's a bit of a list there. So they have within Canada, the United States, and then also international. So let's just pick one here. So here's a society for molecular biosciences. So this is where you can really go in, you can read about it, kind of see what they're doing. So you can see there's different memberships, different meetings. They have a jobs board. So lots of different things that you can be involved in. And a lot of times they have lots of neat workshops and presentations and things as well. So I won't go through all that, but I just want to give you just kind of a basic overview of what Academic Invest is and where you can find a list of these associations. All right, so let's go back to our presentation. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is leveraging LinkedIn, the matrix web. So what is it and how do you use it? So many of you maybe have heard of LinkedIn. Lots of you might even have LinkedIn profiles. If you don't, that's okay. It's a really nice way to be doing some networking and to be reaching out to people, doing those career information interviews, finding people that are in the types of careers and industries you're interested in. So it's just a nice, safe, professional way to be conducting some of these career information interviews. So for those of you who maybe haven't heard of LinkedIn, it's really a professional social media site where you create a profile. And again, it's a professional profile. It's for students, it's for employees, it's for employers, it's for organizations. So people have their profile pages on there, but companies, organizations have their own profiles as well. And institutions, so like universities, also have their own profile pages. So there's really lots of different kind of people and companies that you can be interacting with. So I want to show you something on here for when you do have your profile page of how you can be kind of searching out people, careers, industries, kind of anyone that's interesting to you that you want to make some connections with. So I'm going to stop sharing this again so I can share my LinkedIn profile with you and give you a quick tutorial 101. All right, so this is LinkedIn. I'm not going to take you to my profile page, but basically everyone has a profile page with different sections that you can highlight kind of different areas about yourself. This is just, you can see on my home page here. So there's some different sections up top. One of the main things I really want to take you to today, because it's really a hidden kind of gem. When I meet with students, often they don't know that this even existed. And it's just a really nice way to be researching different jobs, companies, networking, and reaching out for those career information interviews. So when you're on your homepage, if you go to the University of Saskatchewan LinkedIn profile page, so like I said before, universities will have typically their own LinkedIn page. Ours is within that as well. We have some different areas down here. If we go to alumni, it's going to bring up a really cool new search screen. This is where you can put in a title, a keyword, a company, a degree, whatever you're interested in. That's how you can start your search. So say, for example, I picked that at random. You wanted to connect with people within biochemistry. It's going to bring up kind of anyone that's affiliated with that search. So it could be students within the university, it can be instructors, professors, alumni from the university, kind of anyone that has a LinkedIn profile that is directly connected with the University of Saskatchewan is going to be in this database. So based on that search, you see there's a few different categories here. So it's going to show out of the 1,520 people that are connected with biochemistry, it's going to show you where they're living. So you can see there's definitely a range there. Say we only wanted to search within Canada, we would click on that, and now it's going to filter just within Canada. This is going to show us where people are working. So say you're in biochemistry, and you're really interested in working at the university or Sask Health Authority or within agriculture. There's lots of different areas that you could be specifically filtering. And then if we hit next, this shows kind of what they're doing within that industry. So say you really want to zone in on research, you can filter by research. And again, you can filter specifically just biochemistry, or if you want to leave it open to some of the other areas or branches of that, you can keep it open. So it's really up to you kind of how much you want to filter it and what makes sense for you. And then under this is going to show you the people that are connected with that search. So this can be really neat just to see maybe other students and where other people are working. So this is where you can just kind of filter through. And then anyone that looks interesting to you, again, I picked this person totally at random. But yeah, maybe you want to read their profile page. So have a look through, kind of see like what their education is, licenses, certifications, their skills, publications, see what companies maybe they're following. That can always be interesting as well. So say you kind of give that a read through and you're like, this looks like a really interesting kind of thing this person is doing. That's where you can send them a connect message. So by clicking on that, it lets them know that you want to connect with them. And then if they accept your connection, that's where you can send them a professional message. So that's where you can reach out and say, I'm really interested in what you're doing or where you're working. I would really like to connect with you maybe for 15 or 20 minutes of your time and ask you some questions about the role and what you're doing. So it can be something as straightforward as that. And that's how you can really start kind of digging into those career information interviews in kind of a safe way, because cold calling can be really difficult. So by starting somewhere like this, it can start kind of building those safe relationships. And then of course, you're going to learn different contacts from the people that you're connecting with and can connect out from there. So I recognize that's a very quick tutorial on how to use that. But hopefully that all made sense. And I just want to point out one other thing here, which is the job section. So again, sorry, I just have to go to my home base first and then back. So all the jobs come up, not just the ones at the university. This is where you can kind of put in any search. And just the one thing I wanted to point out here within the job section is that if there are any University of Saskatchewan alumni working within these advertised companies, they're going to pop up. So for example, this research technician with Accelera, we can see that there's 2 company alumni that work there. So say, you click on this, you read through it, it looks like a really interesting role. You want to learn more about the role, you want to learn more about the company. That's where you can reach out, click on here, kind of see like who's maybe graduated and working. Message them and see if they're willing to talk to you about the company, the role, what advice they'd have for you, and maybe applying for it. So that's one other neat way that you can be using LinkedIn. Okay, so that's my quick tutorial there. I'll go back to our presentation. All right, so now hopefully you found some really interesting contacts between looking at job boards and associations, looking at LinkedIn, and you're thinking, okay, so I kind of know how to reach out to these people, but kind of what are the next steps involved in this? What's the professional etiquette? So when you are reaching out to them, usually you want to request like a 15, no more than 30-minute conversation. And remembering that when you're reaching out and requesting this, that you're really working on their time, right? It's their schedule, not the other way around. So you are the one that has to be a bit more flexible in that. When you reach out, things to include or to think about including, or maybe some personal info, just obviously who you are, maybe what you're studying or your education, why you're interested in connecting with them. So kind of what's your learning goal? And how you found their contact. So of course, some common things to be mindful of are, being on time, looking the part, even if it's virtual, you want to make sure you still look professional, being prepared. Things to think about are maybe practicing your intro, so remembering that first impressions matter. And of course, having your questions prepared ahead of time. So having a notepad, having those questions, having some paper that you can make notes, and always have your resume handy, even in front of you as well as electronically, because that's something that they may ask for and you could forward to them. So it is remembering that career information interviewing, you're not asking for a job, you're asking about a job. So you're asking to learn more. It's okay to ask things about maybe recruitment cycles or entry positions, but the focus isn't about asking for a job. It's about learning about the roles in the company. After you've had your career information interview, within the next 24 to 48 hours, you want to be sending a thank you message. So think about what was your biggest takeaway. What are going to be maybe some of your next steps that they helped you learn from that conversation? And just really showing your sincere gratitude and appreciation for taking some of their time to learn more about the career and industry. All right, so thinking about what are some of the things I should ask. I know we touched on some of this. There's lots of great questions to think about. Probably you don't want to have kind of more than like 10 questions as the max. We have on our website a series of questions that you can think about. Some of those questions are things like, how did you get into your current line of work? What competencies, knowledge, or skills or experiences are necessary for this work? What makes someone successful in this field? What type of formal training or education have you had? What do you like most about your job? What do you like the least about your job? What are the challenges? What do you think the need for this work is? Is it expanding? Is it contracting? So what is the labor market like? What organizational sectors employ people with your area of expertise? What kind of training or experience would be helpful to a person entering your field? What other past experiences or training have been helpful for you? And really, what advice would you have, given someone who's considering those fields? So those are some of the common questions you can ask. But of course, you're going to have some of your own questions as well. Those are just some ideas for you. I always like to bring happenstance into probably every presentation that I do, because I know when we're talking about these things, sometimes it can feel really overwhelming because there's so many different steps in there, and it just feels like there can be a lot of work. It's just remembering that you're kind of taking one step at a time. So maybe you don't have it all figured out yet, and that's okay. But by taking kind of one step at a time, by having these conversations, you just never know what that can lead to. So it's having some excitement, energy around that as well. We know that it can feel a little nerve-wracking, but just not to forget that it's exciting about the things you're going to be learning. And typically with these kinds of conversations, there's always great takeaways. There's always something that you leave with that you didn't have before you came in with. And that typically leads to the next conversation and the next step. And the more of those conversations and the more of the steps you have, that's getting you closer to your end goal. So even if you don't know what the end goal is, that's okay, because you're getting there. You're working towards it. So now that we've kind of gone through a bunch of different information on career information interviewing, I want you to think back to the beginning of the PowerPoint and where you placed yourself on here. So now think about maybe that missing information, and hopefully you've learned a couple key takeaways that could maybe bump you up kind of one number. So thinking about really what is that next step? So that's what I would encourage you to think about. What's going to make you a little bit more comfortable? What's maybe one next thing that you can do that's going to make sense around career information interviewing? All right, so that takes us to the end. You can connect with us through careerlink.usask.ca. That'll take you right through to career services. So kind of any information you may need, you can connect in with our website there.
Well, that was absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much, Roberta. I really enjoyed that. I guess I just wanted to reiterate for students or anyone watching, is that you can change your career at any point. It's not just a session like this is not just for students sort of coming out of university and wondering what's next. I came into my job at the University of Saskatchewan in 2019, and I came from outside the university, to take my position. And so it going through this process of tapping into who that's there already, and having those informational interviews, that's an incredible way to get yourself in and get yourself known, and to see if that's the right place for you. Does anyone have any questions? If you do, please feel free to either put them in the chat and I can read them out, or if you're feeling confident and you'd like to unmute yourself, or stick up your hand and unmute yourself and just ask the question, that is just fine as well, whichever you prefer. And I actually think I'm going to stop the recording as well, just to make sure that everyone feels comfortable asking questions.